In this episode of Beyond the Track, we sat down and had a question and answer session with Craig Mintz. Fans will get a chance to know Craig the driver, Craig the family man, and also Coach Mintz. Thanks again to Mintz Motorsports for opening their shop to Attica Raceway Park as well as the fans.
Well, my father ran AMA motocross for as long as I could ever remember. I know he ran it when he was really young, and then he quit right when I started racing, right when I was born. I went to a couple of races, and I really wanted to run motocross, but I think my mom was anti getting on two wheels, so we settled for four wheels and bought a go-kart. With the go-kart, the first number I had was 60. Actually, the zip tie broke on one of the number panels, and it flipped upside down during the course of one of the races at Fremont Raceway Park. So, and it was 09, so it kind of stuck, and ever since that first race we stuck with the 09.
How old were you when you got your first go-kart, when you started?
I want to say just after kindergarten, so maybe 7 or 8. I won a big wheel event, which to this day, which really baffles a lot of people's minds, was the biggest event purse-wise that I've ever won. Was when I was just starting first grade. Won a $5,000 scholarship, and literally all we did is pedal a big wheel, the 3-wheel trike around Midvale Speedway. And what was really kind of odd for that night, if you look through the results on that night, Mike Linder and Brian Scott and a few of the guys that used to run both were there that night, which kind of, it's a big circle. I don't know if I have one that means more than anything else. I know the All-Star win, beating Stevie Smith coming out of 4 ranks right up there. It was probably the best one, or my more memorable one that I've ever had. None really, they all kind of mean the same because it's still winning and you're still in victory lane. But if I had to rank one over another, that was there. Another one that comes to mind is me and Mark Keegan battling at Fremont Speedway during it was a Sunday race that we made up, or we made it up in a really odd time, and there's a really cool sunset, and we were still racing in the daytime. So, and I remember me and Mark going back and forth, and Mark has had, been around him. I miss racing with him to this day, but he's still around, and it's kind of nice to be able to say you got to race with a legend. I think I got a couple in that one. My father having the racing gene and passing it on to me is a major contribution to it. If it wasn't for him, none of this would be possible to begin with. And I get to spend time with my dad every day and at work, but we really spend time, out in the shop and at the races. So that's, been really nice. When I first started getting into racing, it was more, Dick Sabo, giving me the opportunity to race, and Johnny Oxter, and being around those guys when you first start, that's a heck of a way to be thrown into the mix. Is you got Johnny Oxter and Tommy Leeser and Dick Sabo, going at you every night, and I couldn't tell you how many times I was fired from that ride. So and then I got older, it kind of changed a little bit. I got to the point where I started, getting a little bit of guys underneath, putting me under their wing. Mark Keegan was one of them. Mike Linder to this day still is the same way. I look up to those guys, and they've been around and they've won a lot of races, so why wouldn't you? So there's a lot of guys that have taken me under my wing, but those guys that I just mentioned are ones that I've really, kind of look up to and still do, and are the biggest influence to where I am today. Ooh, that's a loaded question. I think the cost. I think the cost is getting a little out of control. I don't know the magic wand. I don't have it. Do I know the major thing to it? What I could fix? There's a lot of things on race cars, tires, engines, and stuff that I wish the cost would go down. I think that there's a lot of race car drivers, especially in the go-kart ranks and coming up, that have a lot of talent, but don't have the opportunity just because of the budgets. I know Tony Stewart just mentioned this on the other day, that a guy like Sam Hafferty Jr. He already feels that he's too old, and he's 35 and I'm 32, and I already feel like I'm too old, nor do I have the budget to go run on Sundays. I think that the sprint car racing is in the same boat. We don't give the kids or the person that has the talent the opportunity because of the budgets, and racing has gotten really expensive. And if you look back at some of the purses compared to what they were 20 years ago, the cost of race cars have doubled, tripled, and the purses are really 10 to 20% much difference. And it's not on promoters, it's not on series, it's not on the race car owners themselves. It's a collaboration of all three of that group need to get together and figure something out, because eventually we're going to all price ourselves out of this. And there's going to be a few mega teams left, and that's all we're going to watch on Saturdays and Sundays. So there's no real major thing, but I think the cost is a major thing that I see every day and every weekend. I think that every now and then, I think that the veterans need to come in, like myself. It's hard to consider myself a veteran, but, I think you can really kind of take them under your wing and help them. There's a lot of mistakes that us veterans made, that the veterans to us helped us out. But I still believe in the old school, you kind of got to learn on your own. I think I learned how to swim by my father throwing me in the pond, and pretty much just said, just swim to the shore. So I was growing up on that, to round a bolt off because you're using a wrong wrench, but then have the veteran tell you why. There's a lot of things that I think some people need to learn on their own, but they need to have that person overseeing it. You don't want to let them go too far for safety wise, that it's a problem, but you want them to learn. You can't be with them every step of the way, and if they start counting on you, they don't learn as well. So I think it is something, but it's not something that you really have to be overly involved. For the guy that's just getting into it, for the younger guys, is to keep pushing. You never know who's watching. You never know who is right around the corner that is wanting to put you in a car. You don't know who is talking about you in shops. Going, man, he's coming up. And that could be in a go-kart ranks. That could be in a 305 ranks. There's a lot of 410 guys that might go, hey, that guy's coming. We got to worry about him. So I think that you just keep pushing, keep digging. Nothing, it's kind of a metaphor. Nothing stands in the way. But there's a point to, just keep digging. And don't be afraid to ask for help. A lot of times people get the ego of, I can do it on my own. Well, that we've seen a lot of times where that's a failure. So I think that my advice is, don't be afraid to ask for help, and just keep plugging away, and eventually it'll come. My father obviously, has been a big part. My wife and kids. My wife really supports me. It's not easy marrying or dating a race car driver due to the time that they're out in the shops or racing on weekends. So she puts up with a lot, and washes suits and does a lot. She keeps the lineups as many times that the lineups are complicated. And many of the times that my wife can, we qualified fifth, she'll tell you exactly where we start and who already has it started, and where we are in the heat races. And she does that before she even hits the lineup board. So a lot of that is very beneficial. You know, my 14-year-old son is often out in the shop and helps, and really likes to get his hands dirty. You know, at the racetrack, it's a little different just due to the fact that he's really busy in scheduling with other things. And Brindley, my daughter, she's a cheerleader. She likes to help. She's definitely a handful. You know, she scrapes mud and does a lot as far as that. And, you know, we might not qualify well, or we might not, you know, we struggle on the racetrack. And, you know, she's always like, good job, Dad. And that, you know, brings it to a point to, you know, it wasn't all that bad, and we're going to go back out another night, or we're going back out in a little bit. We'll get them then. So, you know, she doesn't understand that yet, or understand the value of what she does. But, you know, it's just like my wife, she doesn't understand how much that helps. And, you know, someday, hopefully I can repay them. I coached for Fostoria High School. Just this actually a couple weeks ago, I was hired on as the head girls basketball coach at Fostoria. I've been doing it 13 years now, so I've been around and seen a lot of basketball games. You figure roughly each team has 22 games a year. You times that by 14 times 3 teams, it becomes a lot of basketball. So I really enjoy the sport. I really enjoy the kids, the interactions I get with them, and, you know, the building of the trust, and to be able to change the youth. I really like kids. I mean, I think many times I thought I should have been a teacher, but I really like to make a change. So during the off season is, you know, when we're not racing, you know, I'm in a gym, and then in the summertime, you know, during the week, we're at open gyms and getting them some shots up for the following year. So.
And before this video, we were waiting for you to come here because you had open practice.
Yeah, so we had open gym at, from 5:45 or 5:15 to 6:45, and took me a little bit to get here. But it's something that I really enjoy doing. It's more of a relaxation. When I have stress at work or stress out the racetrack, I can kind of go there, and it's more of a, you know, my let loose. A lot of people bowl, or a lot of race car drivers do this or that. You know, my kind of thing is to go coach basketball. So
do your kids ever come watch you race?
Some managed to make it over. It was really more apparent when I coached at Clyde and Lakota. There was more there. Fostoria, I haven't, you know, pushed a couple buttons enough to get them there yet. But I think eventually they will come around. And it only takes, you know, bring one that really they enjoy it, and then they tell their friends, and eventually we get half the team there. So eventually, you know, my years into it, we'll have, you know, a lady, you know, red night, you know, where I bring them all there. We set them up in a VIP booth type thing, but something that I enjoy. I hope that, you know, what I learn on the racetrack, I can kind of teach them some heartaches. Is, you know, it's luck is involved, but sometimes things don't go the way the plan is. So it's how you roll with it, and how you deal with the cards that you're dealt is what really matters. And outside of basketball and outside of their life of school, they need to know that. And, you know, if they can't get taught that in the you know, the arithmetic classes, I'll teach them that on the floor. Yeah, Becky, we are going to 100% devote to fast. It was kind of one of our goals as we started the season is to be a part of it. I mean, it's a great series, so we want to support it as much as it can, as we can. So we'll be at every race. We'll go back to Sharon in August. We'll go to Mansfield in August. And I think we'll go to Waynesfield in July, which is on a Tuesday night. So those are the racetracks that I know are away from Fremont, Attica. But anytime you see a fast banner anywhere, you be sure to see the 09 there. I mean, I gotta thank my dad, you know, and Kathy, and my wife. You know, without those guys, my kids, it's harder to do without those. You know, Rich and Pat and Kemp and Kevin, all those guys have their own duties within the crew, and they all do them very well. Many times, you know, I'm not here, and I don't have to think twice that something's getting done or done correctly, because they're always doing it. I got to thank Real Geese, Decoys, KSLs and Service, Eagle Ignition Leads out of Australia. Many people don't. They'll see it on the side of the car and go, what's that? And I beg you to go on their website, get on their social media, follow them. You know, they're out of Australia. They make awesome leads, and many people are, you know, it's basically a spark plug wire, is what we will call a lead. And if you have any kind of car that you're, you know, remaking, or rebuilding, or you might just have a passenger car that needs, you know, a boost up, instead of going to your local place and getting a set of plugs and a set of wires, give me a call, give them a call. So contact them on social media, tell them I sent you, and they have every make and model that you can imagine. And even for the drag guys, if you need a good competitive, lead, I highly recommend it, not just because they're sponsors. I mean, we've actually ran them before, they came aboard. So those guys, Maxim Chassis, ATLs, Pro Shocks, Linder Speed Equipment, there's a lot of little guys that make up one big team. Angelinas, that one big group, is divided into little guys. And if you didn't have the little guys, you wouldn't have the big group, and that's what we are. And that says a lot about us, is that we really like who we're with, and those guys always contribute every year, and we've continued that support, so I thank you.